When mysterious disappearances occur, it's very often the case that the missing person has vanished of their own free will, or they're found a short while later, usually with the aid of security footage. There are, however, some unsolved disappearances caught on camera that remain a mystery for years at a time, and with every passing day, it seems less likely that they will ever be solved. Number 5. Natalie Jenkins, a 32-year-old woman from North Yorks in England, was last seen as she was leaving her home on the 11th of December, 2019 at around 10 a.m. When she had not been in contact with her family and friends in the following days, they became concerned and contacted police. Searches were then carried out in Albert Park and at Acklam Steelworks Club, but police were unable to locate her. After reviewing CCTV footage of the area, investigators found the last known sighting of Natalie on the night before her disappearance. Cameras captured her walking down Stockton Road at 7:45 p.m., and she appears to be talking to someone on her cell phone. Police have described her as being a vulnerable woman, as she had an illegal substance problem and was known to be a street worker. These factors made it all the more likely that foul play was involved, and hence police were desperate for any leads that could lead them to her. Another piece of footage was later found in which she is seen walking down Linthorpe Road at 8:13 p.m. Police later received reports that she was seen leaving her home in the following day, but were unable to confirm whether that was accurate. In the surveillance video, she's seen wearing a dark-colored coat, dark fur-lined boots, a white hat, pants, and a light-colored top. She has a tattoo on her neck that reads Swan, and another one that reads Swanee. After scouring close to 1,000 hours of surveillance footage, a man aged 40 was arrested in April of 2020 after it was suspected that he was somehow involved in her disappearance, and he remains on bail. Since then, a further 4 people have been arrested, including a 38-year-old woman and 3 men aged 18, 41, and 42. 3 individuals in the latest arrests have all been released after investigations failed to link them to the case. Police have since made the hard decision to move their efforts from a proactive to reactive investigation, and have stated that they are certain there are more people out there with information who have not yet come forward. Natalie's family remains hopeful that she will be found, but for now, her case remains an unsolved disappearance that may never yield any answers. Number 4. The mysterious disappearance of Kelsey Shelling occurred on the 4th of February 2013. She was 21 years old at the time and living in Denver, Colorado. She and her boyfriend, Dante Lucas, had just found out that she was 8 weeks pregnant, and she'd driven to Pueblo to meet with him after he told her that he had a surprise for her. A few days later, her car was found at St. Mary Corwin Hospital in Pueblo, but Kelsey was nowhere to be found, and she had stopped answering her phone. Dante was immediately considered a person of interest, but he denied having any involvement in her disappearance, and maintained that he didn't know where she was. But surveillance video shows Dante parking Kelsey's car in the parking lot of a Walmart, contrary to claims that she had been driving the car. The same video shows the car standing in the lot overnight and a man wearing a gray hoodie, presumed to be Dante, collecting the car the next morning. He is also seen on an ATM security system, using her credit card to withdraw $400 from her account, which he claims was for his phone bill. He would eventually admit to moving her vehicle, but still maintained that he didn't have anything to do with her disappearance. With no further leads, Kelsey's family began to lose hope that she would ever be found. But in October of 2015, they received a message on the Help Find Kelsey Facebook page from a woman who asked to remain anonymous, claiming that she had information on the case. She said that her name was Jenna McLean and handed the conversation over to a man who stated that Kelsey is still alive and that she would be brought home safely. He said that Dante had hired a man named Cliff to end her life, but that Cliff had decided not to go through with it. In the same month, in the case of a missing woman named Megan Lancaster, the same woman contacted her family and had similar claims about her case. Both families were told to bring $25,000 to a McDonald's in Vancouver to a man named Marcus who would be wearing a red hat, and the missing women would be returned to their families. But police believed that it was a scam, and they decided not to do the exchange. To this day, neither of the women's mysterious disappearances have ever been solved. Number 3. 50-year-old Jennifer Doulos from New Canaan, Connecticut, was reported missing on the 24th of May, 2019, after she had missed a series of appointments in New York City, and her friends became concerned that something was wrong. She was last seen on the same day when she dropped off her 5 children at school in New Canaan at around 8 a.m. When police went to her home to investigate, they found traces of biological matter in the garage and suspected that foul play was involved. Her black Chevrolet Suburban was later found on Lapham Road in New Canaan. Searches were carried out at the park and extended to a property owned by her family in Westchester County, after being extended once more to Connecticut, where more traces were found. 8 days after Jennifer's disappearance, her estranged husband, Fotis Doulos, and his girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, were arrested for tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. They pleaded not guilty to all charges. Clothes and sponges with Jennifer's biological matter were found in trash cans in Hartford, Connecticut, and surveillance cameras captured a man who appears to be Doulos disposing of bags in the same bins. A woman in the passenger seat of the man's car also fits the description of his girlfriend. Doulos then released a public statement in which he said that he understands the public's perception of him as being a monster, given how little they know about the case, but that he trusts the system and asked the public to do the same. On the 28th of January, 2020, Doulos was hospitalized for carbon monoxide poisoning after he attempted to take his own life, and he passed away 2 days later. Thanks to the outbreak of the coronavirus, the case's trials have come to a halt for now. Jennifer's strange disappearance remains unsolved. Number 2. The unsolved disappearance of Aaron Kato turned into a homicide investigation when surveillance footage from the 18th of April, 2019 emerged that brought new leads as to what may have happened to him. 28-year-old Aaron is described by his partner, Chanel Naidoo, as a genuinely kind and caring family man. On the day of his disappearance, he had taken his son, niece, and Chanel to go bowling and to spend time in the local park in Ilford, East London. That evening, he went out with some friends, and at about midnight, he phoned Chanel to tell her that he loved her and that he was on his way home. But that was the last time she would ever hear from him. Initially, police were left without answers, but when CCTV footage emerged from the 18th of April at 5:32 a.m., it became clear something more sinister was going on. In the footage, Aaron is seen running down a street in Ilford with another man chasing after him. As the man catches up to him, a struggle ensues and he's thrown to the ground. A dark-colored SUV with registration number RF12OZA is seen passing by before returning to the scene, and Aaron is forced into the vehicle. Since then, 7 people, 1 woman and 6 men, have been arrested and charged with suspicion of kidnapping, but they have all since been released or bailed. No further leads have been found, and Detective Inspector Mick Norman has stated that all police inquiries and appeals have failed to locate Aaron. The charity Crime Stoppers has offered a $10,000 reward for any information leading to the arrest and conviction of Aaron's kidnappers. Number 1. 23-year-old Brenden Volleth from South Windsor in New South Wales, Australia, was the front seat passenger in a car that was struck by a Hyundai i30 not far from his home on the night of the 31st of March, 2015. After the incident, the car that he was in continued to drive to his house, and Brenden then mysteriously disappeared. When police checked CCTV footage for 3 cameras outside his house, They were shocked to find that a heinous crime had been committed, and that it was very unlikely that he would be found alive. In the footage, the car in which Brenden was a passenger is seen pulling into his house's driveway at speed. Before the car comes to a complete stop, he opens the door and bolts out of the car, heading for a gate at the front of his property. A second camera shows another car stopping in front of the driveway and 3 men running up the drive. In the meantime, Brenden and the driver of the car are seen running towards the gate, and he attempts to jump over. As he scales the gate, however, it swings open and he's able to run through, followed by the car's driver. 2 of the pursuing men then run into the property after them, while the third stops at the vehicle to prevent a backseat passenger from escaping. Another man is then seen entering the property before exiting a few moments later. He then stays with the backseat passenger while the other man enters the property, only to re-emerge a few moments later. It would later be revealed that the pursuing men are part of a group of friends that had formed a gang, and that the altercation came about due to an illegal substance deal that had gone very wrong. They would, however, get a break in the case not long after. Jack Davies, William Patrick Thomas, and Mitchell James Bentley, all age 29, along with Jamie Michael Tilley, age 37, were all arrested during a raid in Quakers Hill and Layler Park and during a vehicle stop in Hawkesbury. The 4 men then went on to provide police with some of the details of what had happened that night. They admitted that they had indeed kidnapped Brenden after assaulting him in a shed in his backyard, and have claimed that he is no longer alive. At his trial, Davies stated that he's unable to bring closure to Brenden's family, since he had been disposed of and never would be found. The vehicle that they had been driving was dismantled and buried in a national park, for fears that it would be located by police, and that evidence would be found that would incriminate them. They were ultimately sentenced to a total term of 15 years in prison, and will only be eligible for parole after spending 11 years behind bars. Thanks to the men's refusal to provide more details, Brenden's whereabouts remain unknown. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knots, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.